Welcome to or welcome back to Amanda Soar Art. My name's Amanda and I like dinosaurs and art. Today I'm working on a lion drawing and I'm going to show you real quick how I did the background. I forgot to screen record when I was initially doing it, so I only have the Procreate version, which is sideways, so I thought I would show you how I did it separately than the quick little screen recording that Procreate does. So what I did is I started out with my lightest color, and then I took a watercolor brush in Procreate. You can find that under the painting tab, and I got it to a size I wanted, and I started layering it down. Now, because watercolor in real life is transparent, so is the watercolor brush, and so I knew that going in that it was going to be see-through, and I just had to prepare for that. If I wanted it to be more opaque and not see-through, I would have to layer it a couple of times with the same color. So right here I am just layering it a few times. I'm using the colors I used to get the sunset in the background and just building up my layers, slowly building them, getting them to a shade I liked. And then I used the blending tool, which is found next to the paintbrush and eraser. It's right in the middle of them. It's highlighted blue right now, and that I have as a watercolor brush as well, so it has the same feel. So it's going to have that streakiness to it as well. I then continued to add some colors on to get it to be more of the color I wanted. And I just played around with this, going back and forth from my dark colors to my light colors, blending it until I got something that I was happy with. You can see some of the streakiness from the orange and purple color above. That doesn't matter so much. If I had too much of it, it would really show on that yellow, but because I'm using digital art, it doesn't matter that much. And what I'm going to do is continue to use that blending tool that's in between the paintbrush and eraser to continue blending it until I get a nice smooth gradient going between the colors. You can kind of see that the orange has disappeared. If I wanted to bring out more orange, I can add an orange layer on top. Right now I'm going to show you another color combo to help you see that you don't need to do just these colors to get this look. So I'm starting off with like a light sage color, and I did a pretty good chunk of that, and then I found another color, added that to it, and I kind of went really high with that second color to really blend them together. I'm using the campfire preset on the Procreate app. I added the light color over top again, and then I added the darker color. You can kind of see it looks like a hot mess right now, but once I start blending with the blending tool, it's really going to help it blend smoothly. The way I get my colors opaque is you have to pick your pencil all the way up off of the paper and then put it back down, and that's how you're going to get it to look really opaque. Otherwise it's just going to stay see-through and blend into itself. So you lift your pencil up, put it back down, and keep going over it, and it'll work. Right now you can see me using the blending tool, and that's how I'm getting my nice blended look. For the look I was going for with my lion drawing, I did want the streakiness in there because it felt more like an African sunset, which is what I was looking for. If you're not going for that, you can try to blend it out. This is just me showing you how to do it with the tools and methods I use to get my initial look. You can make a gradient out of pretty much any color combo you would like. It just takes a lot of patience, a lot of work. Some color theory is involved, but you don't need to be an expert in color theory to think a gradient's pretty or try to get colors to go together. The gradient I'm working on now is a good example of that. It goes from a nice bright lime green to a magenta purple color, and that I thought was going to be a really hard one to do a gradient with, so I thought it would be a good example for how to do that gradient. Now this is also another preset in Procreate. I did not come up with these colors that go together. So if you're doing your own color combos, I would play around and find the colors that work best to get you the gradient you're looking for. This is just a preset, and I saw the color range and I thought it was a really good one to try and show you that you can make a gradient pretty much out of any color. I would say any color. You would just have to work to find those middle colors that work nicely and don't turn muddy. If you're doing something extreme like orange to blue and things like that, just find those nice little tones to make them not look so muddy. You can see the muddiness of the green and purple when they're coming together, but even that, it's still a very pretty color, and once it blends together, it actually doesn't look that odd, and it's not as muddy as you would expect it to be. Again, I let this be a messy layer until I'm done laying out all my colors, and then I will start blending, and I usually start from my lightest color to my darkest, and in this case I did the green to the purple because I felt like the purple could overpower the green really easily, and so I started with the green and moved to purple. It still kind of looks like a hot mess, so now I'm going back in to add the colors over top. This time I started with the purple at the bottom, and I started to work my way up to that green color. You can see that there is a white patch almost there, and that's what I was really concerned with, was I didn't have enough color there to help it with the blending process. I needed just a little bit more color to make it not have the white come through so much. So now I'm adding the colors over top again. This is also going to help it blend even more smoothly. The more times you do this, the more smooth it will get. It just depends on what kind of look you are going for. Here we go with the blending again to try and smooth it out, to get it a little bit smoother. The reason the white is pulling in is because my brush is set bigger than the gradient brush strokes, and so it'll pull in some of the white from the outside to bring into the gradient. Again, that's the look I was going for. If that's not what you're going for, you can always be a little bit more careful about where you're placing your brush and how to blend it. But as you can see, it got a really nice smooth gradient there. And I was having a lot of fun doing this gradient tutorial that I thought I'd fill out the page and do one more gradient, another green to another color. I can't remember what color combo I did there. I think it's a green to purple blue. And I'm doing the same exact thing I have been this whole time, starting with my bottom layers and working my way up to the color I'm trying to achieve. And I'm trying to, at the same time, make the colors opaque. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. And I'm just blending until I get something I like. And as you can see, if you go back and forth with just the colors, you can get a really nice smooth gradient going as well. That takes a little bit more work, and it does help. It actually helped me a lot more when blending it the final time, because I had that initial layer where I blended the blue into the green and then the green into the blue a couple of times. That made it a little bit easier here and made it a little bit smoother for when I got my blending tool out. If you're looking for a really smooth gradient, that would be the way to do it, is get the initial colors as smooth as you can get and then use the blending tool, because then it'll just really smooth everything out. I smoothed everything out using the little smudger tool, now I'm going back over with all the colors again and doing the same thing I have been doing. Nothing really new to explain here, it's just a different color combo. I highly recommend, if you're doing a gradient, to play around with the different colors you're thinking of using and trying to find those middle colors beforehand. If you want it to go from a green to a blue, find those middle colors that help it blend even more smoothly before you jump into your final project. That's going to help you out in the long run, and it'll make the blending process a lot easier. They don't need to be a perfect match, because when you're blending it, it'll just blend itself together. It'll kind of make the gradient for you. But if you start out with the initial colors that work really well, that'll help you as well. So these are the final versions of my blending tutorial. You don't need to use the watercolor brush, that's just what I preferred using. You can also use airbrush or any of the tools on Procreate to make gradients. And here is me working on that and the start of my lion. This is for my Reflect and Create piece. I know I'm posting this a day late, but that's because it's been a rough one, and I don't really want to go into it, but I just wasn't feeling up to finishing this guy yesterday. I didn't know exactly what to say for my lion. I just knew I created a lion, and lions to me sort of represent, God, because you always hear the lion and the lamb and stuff like that. So I knew it meant something, but I didn't know what. And the reason I didn't know what is because this piece was create then reflect, which isn't something I normally like to do, but it's what happened here. And so I was having a rough day, and I just wanted art to distract me, but I was drawing blanks on what I wanted to actually create. And so I was debating on drawing a lion, but I didn't know what to draw for my lion. And so I asked my husband, hey, what do you think I should draw? And he suggested I do a savanna, without knowing I was thinking about drawing a lion that day. And so for me, it was kind of one of those, well, I guess I'm drawing a lion for sure, but a savanna, that's interesting. And it kind of got me inspired. So I started looking up on Google different savanna sunsets and things like that, and then I had the idea of having the lion in the foreground kind of peering through the frame, and so that's kind of what inspired this entire piece, was that concept, the initial concept of savanna, and me initially wanting to draw a lion but not really knowing what to do for it. And so that's kind of what happened there. I had put a lot of pressure on myself to make a Reflect and Create piece for Monday, and so that's why I'm still kind of putting this out there, but this was just me spending time with God, creating a piece. It never really came to mean anything to me personally. It might mean something to someone else though, and so art is subjective, and a lot of people find meaning in art, and the artist doesn't really have meaning behind it. I don't know if this is going to be one of those pieces. I've created those in the past, but this one I just needed to create to have a distraction for myself personally. I was trying so hard yesterday to see if there was any meaning I could find behind this, but I really wasn't finding any meaning whatsoever. The thing that I kept doing was looking through the Bible, looking for scripture, seeing if there was something that would line up. Nothing to me lined up, and so it didn't feel right to fully call this a Reflect and Create piece. It was more just me drawing a lion and things. But it did get me to start a devotional yesterday called Through the Eyes of a Lion, and I found a lot of good things in there, and I really liked starting it. I did read the first 3 days real quickly because I was trying to find meaning for this piece. But once I got to day 2, I started taking notes because I was really fascinated by this concept, and so I want to read to you some of my notes from this. The devotional is called Through the Eyes of a Lion, and this is day 2. I highly recommend reading it so far. I really like it. I can't say if I'm going to continue to like it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to continue to like it. And so for day 2, there was, towards the end, it's like the last paragraph. I completely wrote word for word what it said. It said, you must not rely on the naked eye. What you think you see is not all that is there. There are unseen things, spiritual things, eternal things. You must learn to see life through the eyes of a lion. Doing so is to utilize the telescope of faith, which will not only allow you to perceive the invisible, it will give you the strength to do the impossible. And then it talks about Proverbs 28:1. Righteous is, oh man, words are hard. The righteous is as bold as a lion. And then 2 Corinthians 5:12, live by faith, not by sight. And so I really liked that little combo there, and it kind of felt relevant to this piece because to me, I'm looking too hard at it. I'm looking at it with my eyes, not the eyes of someone else who might see this. And so, I don't know. I'm probably reaching for things at this point because I'm trying to make it work when that's not how this is supposed to be. I don't know how to explain things. It's been a rough one mentally for the past few weeks. I'm gonna be honest there. So, I don't know. I just wanted to create a lion. Found this cool devotional about lions. I'm still kind of going to call this a reflect and create piece. It's not technically correct because obviously I created and then reflected. But I just, yeah, man. I'm going to drink some more iced coffee. It's just after 8 in the morning. I started this before 8 in the morning and I took a sip of coffee. So that's why my brain is not working. Let's talk about the drawing some more, which it's now almost over. Cool. This took a lot of different layers. I did a lot of different ways to get the background to be where I wanted it to be. I knew I was going to have this be a sticker on Redbubble, which we'll talk about in a second. I just needed to make sure the background was solid white, so I had to white out the entire background of the sun because it is transparent, the watercolor stuff. And if I did a sticker on Redbubble and someone ordered a transparent one, they would be able to see through it, and I wanted the colors to be true to what I was going for, so I added white there. And you had to make sure the line stood out and all that, and I knew to make sure the line stood out, I also had to do a white layer instead of erasing the gradient I had done to avoid the same situation again. I knew I wasn't going to go for bright, bold colors with my lion, so I had to make sure the white layer was there to prevent the same thing from happening, so if someone ordered a transparent sticker, it wouldn't be completely see-through. I realized I never talked about how I did the sun. I wish I could tell you how I did the sun. I don't know how I did the sun. I really don't. It was in the moment. I played with it until I got something I liked, and yeah, I'm gonna need to revisit that and try to maybe make a quick video on that one day, but I have no idea how I did it. It just came to me and it worked out luckily, but I winged that whole thing. For the lion, I did use colors that were previously used in the sunset, so that way my lion would tie into the sunset very nicely. I wanted my whole piece to fit together. I didn't want the lion to look like it was a sticker added on. I wanted it to look like he was a part of the scenery. So for the darker part of the mane, I used a lot of the purples in the bottom of the sunset. I used the yellow colors as a base to create my tan color. So I started out with the yellow, and then I used the little circle tool to drag it into being the tan color that you see here. This is a very colorful piece that I'm not used to making or talking about making. I'm definitely more comfortable with black and white, which is why you saw me start my lion in black and white and then add color, because that's what I'm more comfortable with, and that just helped me get my values correct, and then the colors on top just made it look right. Well, they're not really on top, so I have the pencil layer that's all the shading on top of the color layer. I just did the colors on a different layer below the shading layers, and that helped me have my values there and helped me focus more on what colors I was placing down, because that is what I tried to focus on there. After that, I was using the soft airbrush tool to create all of the shading, so I went around and cleaned up my edges from where the tool went outside of my lines. I don't mind kids coloring outside the lines, and I don't mind adults coloring outside the lines either. I just felt like this piece needed to be colored inside the lines, so I did it after the fact. I was very much a kid who had to color inside the lines, and it bugged me when other kids didn't color inside the lines. That was not okay, and you have to color inside the lines. Right here you can see me adding some more detail to my lion, and when you see the final product, you will know that did not keep any of that. I was not having it. Didn't like it. I kept like a little bit because I couldn't quite erase all of it. I didn't do it on a separate layer, which was my fault. But I was not happy with that. I also dulled the lion's coloring even more because it still felt too vibrant, so I went into the layer that I had all my color on, and I changed the opacity to a lower setting, and that just dulled the colors down a little bit, and that felt like a better fit for my lion than the bright colors that were there. Now it's time to do the border. This took a little bit of work just because it was hard to get the border to be the right thickness to start off with, and then I had to have it exactly right because on when you're looking at the lion right next to his arm, there's a little divot where the color from the sunset never got fully there, so I had to plan this piece around that divot. At that point, I didn't want to go back in and try to fix the sunset because I really liked what I had, and so my border had to cover that and not look like it was covering something. After that, I changed the opacity of the border to be transparent, as you can see, and that's what I did so I could erase it from the lion's paws so the lion is coming out of the frame. And here is my final drawing. Really happy with how this one turned out, and I was so happy with it I decided to add it to my Redbubble shop. Right here is me showing you my Redbubble store where there are a bunch of different items on there, and I'm really focusing on adding a lot of Christian themed art to my Redbubble right now, and I'm spending 2 days a week coming up with different ideas and spending all day working on them and then adding them to my shop. There's still the usual dinosaurs added because what else do I draw other than Jesus stuff and dinosaurs? You can see my lion has been added. He's a nice sticker, and there are a few other options for him as well. There's phone cases and journals and things like that, so if you're interested, you could check it out. Link will be below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!